Hey, what's up? We're going to factor some binomials. Here's your process. You want to find what the greatest common factor is, GCF, greatest common factor for both of the terms. We're going to pull that out, and then we have to see what remains, right? We're basically reverse engineering multiplication. So we start with the product now, and our job is to figure out what did we multiply, what factors did we multiply together that gave us the product, okay? We're going to use Desmos to help us find that greatest common factor, and we'll go from there. Okay, so factoring binomials. Let's go. All right, so I have 28x squared minus 56x. Okay, so our first job is to find the greatest common factor. So what's the largest factor 28x squared and 56x can be divided by? Okay, so 28 and 56. So if I pull up Desmos here and I do GCF 28 comma 56, it shows me right there, hey, there's my greatest common factor is 28. Okay, so I'm at 28. Then I have to look at the variable. I have x squared and I have x. So they both have an x, and the most that they have is the smaller exponent. So they both share one x in common. Okay, so 28x is what I'm going to pull out. And then I have to see, okay, well, we're writing a multiplication problem. So 28x times what gets me back to 28x squared? 28x times what gets me back to negative 56x? So 28x, right? And if I need to find that out, I can divide by the common factor. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so we divide by the GCF to figure out what remains. Okay, so look, 28 divided by 28, that is 1. X squared divided by x, well, x squared is just x times x. Okay, so x divided by x is 1. So look, I'm left with 1x for that first term. And then I have negative 56x divided by 28. Well, this is going to be 2. And then x divided by x is 1. So this is going to be minus 2. Okay, so that's one way to think about it. If I were to multiply this back together, 28x times x would be 28x squared. And then 28x times negative 2 would be negative 56 times x. And that's what we're doing when we're factoring. We're creating this multiplication problem that gives me this as the result. Okay, that's what factoring is. Another way that you could think about this is if I know my GCF is 28x, then I could think about this, okay, well, if I have 28x times what gets me 28x squared? Well, 28x times x. And then over here, if I did 28x times what will equal 56x? Well, times 2, because I already have the x there. So then when I'm writing my factors, I have the GCF, so 28x, and then what's left is going to be x minus 2. Okay, so again, you're just thinking like, what is that multiplication problem? You have to know how your exponents react. So I have to know that when I divide by x, right, I'm thinking, okay, where do I have more? I have more here. How many more? I have 1, right? But just knowing also that that's x times x, and anything divided by itself goes to 1. So if I pull out a variable, it should be changing the variables that I have inside. Okay, let's look at another one. Negative 64x squared minus 48. So I need to find my greatest common factor first. So I'll go into Desmos again. So we have 64 comma 48. So 16 is my greatest common factor. Okay, that's the largest number that divides evenly into 64 and 48. Okay, there's only an x on one of the terms, so x isn't part of my greatest common factor. But I will say, if the x squared term is negative, you want to make your GCF negative. Okay, just formatting wise, that's what we want to do. Okay, so if x squared is negative, we want our GCF to be negative. Okay, so I'm pulling out negative 16. So I'm saying, okay, 16 times what gets me back to negative 64x squared. If I'm not sure, I can come in here and do, okay, negative 64 divided by negative 16. Oh, that's 4. Okay, so if I divide this by negative 16, that equals 4x squared. Because I didn't have any x's, so the x squared stays there. So this has to be 4x squared. Okay, and then I divide negative 48 by negative 16. Again, I could go into Desmos, figure that out. Negative divided by negative is going to be a positive, and that's going to be 3. Okay, I'm creating the multiplication problem that gives me this product. So negative 16 times negative 4x times 4x squared would be negative 64x squared. Negative 16 times 3 is going to be negative 48. So that gets me what I wanted up here, right? So that's what you're seeing. What times what equals that product? So thinking over and over, what gives me this original answer? What did I multiply together? Okay, you got to watch your variables. Where does it go? Can I pull one out? Okay, let's do it again. Negative 125x squared plus 75x. So we want our GCF. So we have 125 and 75. So I can come in here, 125, 75. All right, 25 is my GCF. A largest number of these can both be divided by. My x squared term is negative, so I'm going to make this negative. And I can see they both have an x, and the most that they have in common is just 1, because this one has 1. So that's the most that they can share. So I have negative 25x times what would get me back to the product that was given, right? So I'm going to divide by negative 25x, divide by negative 25x, okay? And so I'm just looking, okay, negative divided by negative, that's going to be positive 5, 1x on the bottom, so x squared, remember that's x times x. So, okay, that goes to 1, so I'm left with 1x here. So there's my first term. 5x, negative 25x times 5x gets me negative 125x squared. And then here, 75x divided by negative 25x. Well, 75 divided by negative 25 is negative 3. X divided by x is 1, so I'm just left with negative 3. If I were to check this, do my distribution, negative 25x times 5x is negative 125x squared, because x times x is x squared. Negative 25 times negative 3 is going to be positive 75 times the x, so it works, okay? It gets me back. So this is what factoring is. Paying attention, like, okay, if I take out the greatest common factor, what do I still have to multiply? So I get back to the original answer.